Welcome to Baddies for the People. I'm Rachel Pearl Jacobs.
And I'm Cheyenne Hunt.
And we're your resident baddies.
Let's get into it.
Welcome back, baddies. It's time for What's the Tea with Me. Cheyenne, what's the tea with you this week?
I have no really interesting tea, so I'm just going to let you in a little bit into my unadulterated brain, like pure stream of consciousness of what happened to me today, which is I have to eat really healthy for a lot of like gut reasons, but I also have this deeply ingrained sweet tooth that has never ever gone away. And I like exist from the sweet treat to sweet treat. Like that is what pulls me through the day, truly. And I was really just like thinking about this today because I was simultaneously like really wanting to bake cookies in the middle of the day. And I also wanted a cake later. And then I was on my way here to film and I like wanted something sweet. And the only thing that I had put in my fridge that was somewhat sweet was a green juice. And I was like, why do I do this to myself? And I do it all the time because I make these healthy choices. And then like this inner, what's a like PC way to say this? My inner like unregulated child that wants to just eat whatever.
The Augustus gloop that lives inside of you.
Okay, I'm confused because literally I called you this morning before you woke up and we planned to get modern.
Yeah, which modern, what I get for modern is usually a lot of pastries. But I also wanted cake and I also wanted cookies and I needed a sweet treat before I came here. So
to get more sweet treats. Okay.
Yes.
And then she ate the full zucchini bread, bruh.
Yeah, I did. And I also have my green juice here. But I realized that, you know how there's like the Native American proverb, the whole like inside you, there's two wolves. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
Oh yeah. It's like a whole, like there's a negative wolf and there's like a light wolf and they argue and the one that wins is the one you feed. Well, my version is I have like an inner sweet tooth child and then like an inner almond mom and they're constantly fighting to the death. And I guess the one that wins is the one that I feed or that feeds me. I don't really know. But I had that realization today that that's who I am on the inside is a war between those two things at all times. And that's
an almond mom with a fat kid. That's crazy. That's some serious childhood trauma that sounds like needs to be resolved.
It's really not. Like my mom, I could eat
your mom isn't an almond mom though.
Yeah,
so
I could eat whatever I wanted.
What inspired your inner almond mom? That's hard to say. Inner almond mom.
Well, one, because like half the stuff I ate growing up made me sick.
You know what? Cheyenne is on that wellness to right-wing pipeline, y'all. You heard it here first.
Also because I'm highly skeptical of like the food regulatory system in the United States
and medicine.
And medicine.
I've told Cheyenne before that she's only like two universal steps away from being like the gnarliest conspiracy theorist.
I know, but I believe in science.
The new age conspiracy theorist.
And my skepticism of all these things is based in science. Anyway, that's my tea. What's the tea with you, Rachel?
Well, the tea with me is this week I went to the National Police Accountability Project conference, and that's basically where all the lawyers who sue the police around the country and are in the National Lawyers Guild get together, and we talk about strategies for suing the police. The reason I actually ended up joining the National Police Accountability Project is because my former professor is like one of the founders, and she was getting a award, and she mentioned me and about how proud she is of me and like the lawyer that I've become and being able to see that evolution of me being a student to a civil rights attorney, and how proud she is of me that I'm like taking on cases, even cases that, you know, my boss isn't necessarily interested in. So like shaping myself. Yeah, bro. Right. Like
this makes me think about
crying.
Yeah. That makes me think about our episode where I said like, what's the best compliment you've ever received? And you didn't have one that like really stood out. And this feels like very core memory compliment for you.
Yeah, it was really nice. But it's also just like she's a legend in her own right in terms of like she sues LA County and she does 1983 actions, and she kind of also like pushes legislative and injunctive relief action, which basically means that she's not just suing for money all the time. Sometimes she's suing for change in the policy, or to get basically a consent decree, which is when the court has oversight over whatever agency committed the harm. And that's legendary.
Yeah, it absolutely is.
It was also just cool to be around people who, well, everyone's older than me because I'm like, yeah. But it's all people who care about justice. And, you know, there was encouragement and it was nice.
Yeah, that's the thing about these conferences that I think is really underrated is like we lost a lot of it during COVID. Like that sense of community, and especially like community in this work and like in that profession. And because what we see on the news all the time is like so soul crushing, it starts to feel like the whole world around you is aligned that way. And like the deck is completely stacked against you. And it can be really easy to lose hope that there are other people like in this fight and doing this work. And it feels very lonely. And so these conferences or these, you know, like any kind of organizing event or even a protest, like it can give you this sense that like you really are in a community of people. There are a lot of very intelligent, very committed, like-minded people, and that community is out there. So that's, I think, super cool.
It gave me hope because there are people all across the country fighting for people's civil rights. And that matters.
Mm-hmm.
Especially today, that matters so much. Wait, there was one other question that I had.
Okay.
This is completely off topic to everything else, but that's on brand for me. What movie do you feel like you quote the most?
This is like a really strange thing about me. I've seen like no movies, and movies give me the ick. The idea of committing to watch something from like an hour and a half to 2 hours, it freaks me out.
But she will watch 6 hours of consecutive Grey's Anatomy.
Yeah, but there's pee breaks. Also, I feel the same way most of the time, but I can sit through a documentary.
I honestly don't know what movie I quote the most.
You've only seen like 10 movies, so it's like just pick one out of a hat.
Probably. And this is so weird, and everyone's going to be like, what? And this is very out of character, especially because I hang out with a lot of old people. I quote The Godfather like more than probably any other movie.
I am 1 year older than you. That's up.
That's not what I meant. I meant like my aunt who's 85.
Well, I quote Lord of the Rings and Mean Girls the most. It's probably a tie. And it's different. When I say Lord of the Rings, I'm talking about the entire trilogy.
Actually,
as one.
You know what else I quote second to The Godfather? Maybe first is Hot Rod.
Don't know what that is.
You haven't seen Hot Rod?
No.
Oh my God, it's so funny with Andy Samberg and Bill Hader.
Okay.
Not as many people have seen Hot Rod as you think.
Well, I'm going to do the Lord's work of bringing Hot Rod back to the masses. It's so funny. Watch Hot Rod. Or Talladega Nights. I quote Talladega Nights a lot.
Don't
put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby.
That's not my type of humor.
6 pound, 8 ounce, sweet baby Jesus. Doesn't do it for you.
Okay.
If you ain't first, you're last.
And now Cheyenne is going to actually start the segment, and I'm going to itch my face.
Sick. Yeah. So now it's time for Cringe, where we talk about what made us cringe this week. I'm going to go first, which is that Senator Elissa Slotkin, who Dems have kind of anointed as like a new up and coming leader in our party, sent a message to the rest of the party saying that they need to stop saying oligarchy because no one knows what it means. She put this out in a larger statement that was incredibly pretentious, saying that the issue with Dems is that we need some goddamn alpha male energy and that we need to retake the flag. And that all those like weird swear words were in that. Like I wasn't just adding that. The larger problem that I have with this is even before Bernie Sanders and AOC went on their like record-breaking fighting oligarchy tour, polling found that over 50% of Americans could accurately and effectively define the word oligarchy, which is certainly greater now as it's become a hot trending term. And so I think this is like a larger problem with Democrats is like we cosplay as kind of wanting to be working class and patriotic and alpha because we want to relate to like some of these working class people. And at the same time, we talk down to them. and we act like we're better than them, or at least the institution does. And there's this way of being like, well, we can't use big words. They don't know what it means. And I think that people sense that, and it feels gross and it feels holier than thou. And that, like, if you talk to conservatives about why they don't like Democrats, like in your personal life, I would be shocked if you haven't heard multiple times that they think they're better than everybody or them. And this is just kind of more of that, but she's saying it out loud. And I think it's really gross. And I also don't think there's anything wrong. And this is like a larger issue I have with like political messaging. And I've worked with people from like the grassroots all the way up to people who have worked on presidential campaigns. Our politicians should sound smarter than us. Like it should be that they are our leaders because they know more about this than we do. And the idea that we should dumb them down to such an extent that it feels like they're just another one of us is also, I think, kind of a problem. Like the president of the United States should speak in a tone and with a vocabulary that is like something to aspire to, not like something to live down to. And yeah, I guess that's like my crash out is I'm really just cringing because I think that Dems think right now that this is the direction to go. And this feels like it's going to land on the voters that we need to win over as more of the same. Like, go to a union hall and tell those people that they don't know what oligarchy is. Like, I'll wait. I'll see how that goes for you. It's not going to go well. So, yeah, that's my cringe.
I completely disagree with you. I do not think that our politicians need to sound smarter than us. If anything, the most effective way to communicate is at like a third grade level. And if there is some complex idea, then that should be able to be communicated in the most simple terms possible so that everyone has access to and can understand it.
I agree with that. Like, you shouldn't be speaking in a way that only college educated people can understand, but you shouldn't remove any words from your vocabulary that may be in some way sophisticated. Like, I don't think that that's a good idea for a lot of reasons.
Yeah, I don't really get what you mean. Because if you're using gigantic words and people don't know what they mean and they don't know like the root of the word or whatever, then it's not going to make sense.
If over 50% of the country, like before this tour even started, knew what the word oligarchy meant, and it's like definitely greater now, that's like a big, generally ivory tower academic type word.
What?
And they could grasp it.
I completely disagree that oligarchy is a academic type word.
I mean, I think that's why they're saying they need to stop using it, though.
No, I think she said that because she's a bitch. I'm serious. Like, it's just giving entitled white bitch. Like, it's not.
Why?
What do you mean?
It's giving my donors told me to stop using that word.
Yeah, it is. It's giving the big, super wealthy donors to the DNC are not very happy that this is getting thrown around.
Okay.
But the way that her excuse was people don't know what it means.
Yes, but her excuse was also that I'm better than all of you. And you should listen to me because I know what's best. Because I'm an entitled white bitch.
Yeah, I mean, the DNC will argue that she's like leading the way on messaging because she won in what's like a red territory. And so obviously she knows what these swing voters want to hear. But first of all, like,
swing voters don't exist, first of all. Second of all, she was palatable to the less overt racists. What are we doing?
Yeah. The beatings will continue until morale improves.
Yeah. She is mediocre. I really don't care for her. She got to give the response to the State of the Union, and it was received really, really poorly. Yeah, it sucked. And it's weird that they didn't take that feedback and pull her out of a messaging role. Because the whole rest of her commentary, too, was really weird. Like, what do you mean the Democratic Party needs more goddamn alpha male energy? Like,
we need liberal Joe Rogan.
Yeah, like that. What a freezing cold take. Like, I don't know. So anyway, I guess we have agreed that this is not the way to go. And that's my cringe. Rachel, what are you cringing at this week?
Cheyenne, this week I'm cringing at Trump's executive order.
Which one? Because there have been many.
So his executive order restoring equality of opportunity and meritocracy. First of all, meritocracy is bullshit. Meritocracy is white mediocrity, respectfully, because what it really means is that people who are Nepo babies and unqualified to be in positions get to meritocracy their way there while keeping institutions predominantly white and predominantly male.
Also, fun fact, the word meritocracy is derived from a book, like a fictional book about the same, I think it's of the same title. And it is like directly satirizing a supposedly meritocratic society.
The whole idea came from the fact that it doesn't work.
That it doesn't exist. So let me tell you what this executive order said. It said it is the policy of the United States to eliminate the use of disparate impact liability in all contexts to the maximum degree possible to avoid violating the Constitution, federal civil rights laws, and basic American ideals. The enforcement section of the executive order goes on to say that they will exercise discretion to ensure lawful governance. Given the limited enforcement resources of executive departments and agencies, which is actually the dumbest I've ever heard.
Well, it's also funny. He's saying, given the limited resources, you guys limited them. You sent Elon Musk in there to cut all of your budgets. You didn't have to do that. In fact, people told you not to do that.
It goes on to say all agencies should deprioritize enforcement of all statutes and regulations to the extent that they include disparate impact liability. For those of you who didn't really follow, Trump is trying to repeal or amend all of the civil rights legislation around disparate impact.
So that's still more legalese. So what is disparate impact?
Disparate impact refers to policies or practices that appear neutral on their face, but have a disproportionately negative impact on a protected group, such as based on race, gender, or disability, even if there is no intentional discrimination. I roll because what do you mean intentional discrimination? So when we talk about disparate impact, it's kind of a complicated thing to explain without legalese. So I'm going to give you an example. When I think of disparate impact, I think of a decision that the administration actually made recently because they terminated a groundbreaking civil rights settlement that aimed to address severe sewage pollution in Alabama. This community in Alabama is a Black, low-income community in the state's Black Belt. The settlement, which was established during the Biden administration, was the first federal civil rights agreement to address environmental injustice related to sanitation. So what happened was sewage, aka is not connected to a lot of the Black communities' plumbing, basically. So instead, it's just like flowing into their yard. And the Alabama Department of Public Health and other agencies in Alabama had a policy basically saying, we don't deal with this type of thing. It's a private concern. However, not all of Alabama is dealing with in their yard. This specific issue is happening only to a specific, predominantly Black community south of Montgomery.
So having a policy that they're not getting involved in this is only impacting Black families. And
basically. So that
even
shows,
though the policy doesn't say we won't help Black people with their sewage issues, that's the effect. And so
yes,
it's disparately impacting that community.
And Trump is trying to undo that entire thing. It's a big deal that they went back on this settlement because now these people who thought they were going to be free of having in their yard are now going to be subject to piss and vomit because the agreement was an illegal DEI initiative.
And this is going to be so much bigger than that, right? Like when you think about this, one of the big areas where there's been a lot of disparate impact litigation and conversation is around schools, school funding, and school resourcing, because in this country, a lot of our schools are still very segregated, and you have areas and districts that are very white, very Black, very Hispanic. And so the policies that were in place that tried to equalize some level of resources, those are now going to be illegal DEI according to this executive order. This is complicated. I don't want to oversimplify this because there are still federal statutes in place that were passed by Congress. So this executive order is not just automatically the law of the land. It's going to be litigated. It's going to go to court. There's going to be a long fight where it's a question about the president's authority to just overrule the will of Congress. That being said, it's going to take years. It's going to take a really long time for the courts to sort this out. And in the meantime, a lot of people are going to pay the price.
But also, it means that there's going to be a focus on figuring out how to dismantle this. So right now, they're thinking about a plan to literally undermine your civil rights. That's the goal. So that's what made me cringe this week, Cheyenne. Well, that was low vibrational. Now we're going to talk about the vibes, the intersection between politics, entertainment, and pop culture. Cheyenne, what are the vibes for you this week?
Earlier in the podcast, Alex made a reference to the very popular liberal talking point that we need a progressive Joe Rogan. And I think that we got a little taste of what that might feel like this week when former Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg spent 3 hours on the Right Wing Bro podcast Flagrant, hosted by comedian Andrew Schultz.
Pause. Andrew Schultz is also the racist comedian who made anti-Black woman statements on these Black Guys podcast. And I don't know if we talked about it on this podcast.
I think we did when it happened. Yeah.
Yeah, but he's some
Yes. Buttigieg came and owned him on his own turf. And in this masterclass of very effective and authentic communication, Pete focused on working class issues, kitchen table issues. He was relatable as a husband and as a father. He talked about meeting his husband Chasten on Hinge, and it felt very human.
That's really cute.
It was really cute. And his points about rampant income inequality, about the basic realities that people are going to have to face with the climate crisis, it left the hosts openly making comments about like, oh my God, are we liberal now? Like, that was how well he did. And it wasn't just the hosts. Judging by the comments, viewers were moved too. I honestly actually want to read a few of them because they were like crazy. So here are some of the comments that I think are the most incredible from Flagrant viewers. As a Republican, Pete came across incredibly well and incredibly intelligent in this episode. This dude can condense very complicated ideas into something that's easily digestible to the average American. I could definitely see him being the next president. I'm a Republican, but Pete seems like a chill dude. Seems like the type of dude I would sit down and have a beer with. It's crazy like how much of politics for men comes down to that. Like, would I have a beer with you? Not a Dem, but Pete here is the real deal. Would vote for him in a heartbeat. So that's crazy. Like, that's really crazy. And you know who else thought it was crazy? Fox News. They were deeply threatened to see an effective progressive message resonating in this bro space that's usually so friendly to them. So they absolutely lost their minds in a live segment. One commentator went full homophobe and said, quote, Pete is not exactly the one you send out to get the young bro crowd. You might as well send Dylan Mulvaney doing a makeup class.
Who's Dylan Mulvaney?
The trans woman that got like so much hate for the Bud
Oh, is that the
Light
Bud Light?
Yeah, it's the Bud Light girl. It's really sad. I don't understand why former mayor, former Secretary of Transportation, Afghanistan veteran Pete Buttigieg is in any way comparable to Dylan Mulvaney.
I don't know, but what I do know is that, I don't know.
That was deep.
I was going to say I like it best when trans people do my makeup, but I don't know if that's like up.
Is that transphobic?
No.
No, I just feel like trans people do makeup better than everyone else.
They do.
Yeah, but I didn't want it to be problematic if I said it.
I don't think it's problematic.
Okay.
Their makeup is like, this is like, I don't know. I think this is very real. For a lot of them, their makeup is like high stakes. Like, they want to look passing to be physically safe from harassment. So they get very good at it. It's like literally a survival mechanism. So when your trans friend does your face, like, they're going to beat that down. Like, they know what they're doing. But for me, this is casual. This is not like survival.
Makeup makes my face itch.
On the one hand, I get what you're saying. On the other hand, I'm still thinking Asian kids are good at math.
Oh my God. Okay.
Okay, that's probably really true too. Like, not all trans people are good at makeup, but I can understand why the ones who are would be. One other thing I wanted to note about this Fox News commentary is, you might remember, especially during the Harris campaign and shortly thereafter, Pete Buttigieg was actually making frequent appearances on Fox News and was seen kind of taking the fight to that network and really kind of effectively dismantling a lot of their talking points. He mentioned on Flagrant that Fox News has suddenly completely stopped booking him for appearances on the network, even when his own team reached out and wanted to talk about Signalgate and all the leaks in the Department of Defense, where he would be an expert as someone that was in the US military. The natural conclusion is that he is breaking through to their audience and they're terrified. And this week on Flagrant, it really showed that that's probably the case. So at least in Pete Buttigieg, somebody is an effective messenger here. And I don't know. I think I hate validating these like weird bro space podcasts by putting people on them. But at the same time, you have to talk to people where they are. Bernie Sanders did an episode on Theo Vaughn's podcast, and it was incredibly popular. He references it all the time when he has other even right-wing podcast people like guests on. It has an influence. It's breaking through the echo chamber, and I think that matters. So I don't know. I'm torn about it, but I think it is important work.
Shout out to Pete Buttigieg for using his white maleness for good.
Truly.
Hurrah.
That's definitely what it is too. Like, and he's got a beard now, and it's like kind of salt and peppery. So he's looking like kind of grizzled. And they talked about it. They're like, "Oh, it's looking good, man." So he's definitely using that like masculine energy. What did Elissa Slotkin say? That goddamn alpha male energy.
Can we like actually have a problematic? I have a problematic take.
All right, I'm buckled up. What is it?
We're good for at least one an episode, so you might as well get it out.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of times I think gay men are hotter than straight men.
That's not a problematic take. They take better care of themselves.
Oh, well, it felt like
Hey, you ever go to a gay gym?
objectifying.
Yeah, I went to this excellent gym in Washington, D.C.
Was it excellent because there was hot gays?
Yes, and it was really nice, and they kept it really nice, and no one harassed me. Anderson Cooper went to my gym. I loved it. And yeah, you can definitely see the way that gay men are very serious about taking care of themselves and looking right.
The body is right.
The hair is right. The hygiene is right.
The hygiene is right.
Yeah.
I feel like that is a whole deep dive conversation about hygiene.
I don't think that it's a whole deep dive conversation.
Oh, it is. We have to talk about whiteness and its relation to hygiene. Mm-hmm.
Is this just going to be you yelling at me for not putting lotion on my legs?
Oh, well, that's definitely part of it. But there's historical implications, of course. Only some people died of the Black Plague. Okay. Anyway.
Rachel, what are your vibes?
This week, my vibes are all about the hot topic, Shannon Sharpe.
I thought you meant like Hot Topic, like the store.
No.
Which I used to frequent as a young emo.
Bruh.
I was like, Hot Topic?
Cheyenne was a young emo is crazy because that's kind of on brand for you. Who do you think I was?
Low-key, I feel like you could have been like Horse Girl.
I'm so offended.
Well.
What the Oh my God.
I feel like it could have been you.
Absolutely not.
I feel like horse girls are like the weebs of women.
Like what? We know I was a cheerleader.
I know.
And a horse girl?
I think so.
She just said that to trigger me. She doesn't actually believe that.
You'll never know.
I'm dropping out of this podcast.
What are your vibes, Rachel? Oh my God.
Wait, you didn't even say what you were. We didn't even get an answer.
I was like preppy.
So like now, basically. You were just
Well, actually,
you now.
I wore sweatpants and like a hoodie to school every day.
Yeah, it's not preppy.
I was severely depressed. Actually, that's definitely my aesthetic in high school, severely depressed.
Were you like the Cookie Monster pants girl?
No, because no. So the hot topic right now is that Shannon Sharpe is being sued by this white girl. I didn't know how else to say that, sorry. For assaulting her. And her attorney is Tony Busby, who is notoriously a scammer. The lawsuit alleges basically that they were in a consensual relationship, meaning Sharpe and the white lady, for like 2 years. And during that time, she was assaulted by him multiple times. Now, what's been leaked are these incredibly explicit text messages. Some along the lines of, put your big black baby gravy inside of me. Hold on. I want $25,000 per cheek. I want you to put a collar on me and walk me around like a dog.
That implies you could just pay for one cheek.
Yeah, how does that work?
Sorry, I only have 25, so just the one.
Just the one.
However that works.
Now, I'm going to pause for a second because not only is Shannon Sharpe a idiot, but so is his lawyer. Why would you ever release these texts? How is this supposed to help you, regardless of if your client was accused of sexual assault or not?
Do we know for sure that they released them? Or
yes.
were they just leaked?
No. His lawyer released them. They also identified the Jane Doe. And okay, so this is where I actually have an issue with this whole thing because what Shannon Sharpe and this young woman have done is cast a terrible light on the BDSM community by engaging in
your issue.
Absolutely. They were engaging in like irresponsible play while also participating in race play. Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about race play. There's a lot of historical implications of race play because race play is this complex and deeply rooted role play that is entrenched in legacies of colonialism, slavery, segregation, and systemic racism. The power dynamics that are played with are not just abstract history, but they continue to shape the social and cultural experiences today. So,
yeah, like her saying big black baby and stuff like that.
Yes. So the first like really big implication here is about the legacy of slavery and colonialism. So race play invokes imagery or dynamics from slavery or colonial domination, like master and slave roles. Okay. So that evokes centuries of trauma, dehumanization, violence, and exploitation, particularly for Black and Indigenous people. So using those types of dynamics for sexual role play ultimately trivializes and re-traumatizes those histories. And it's not even just the people that are participating, but also hearing the horrible racist things that she said made my blood boil.
Yeah.
And then the fact that he partook in this makes me want to slap the out of him. Now, the other piece here is when you partake in race play, what you're actually doing is perpetuating stereotypes. So it reproduces and fetishizes harmful stereotypes like hypersexualization, submissiveness, or in this case, Black savagery. So you know, the big black brute that's going to just take the white woman and do whatever he wants with her. This is a racial trope we've seen in movies since movies began. Obviously, this whole thing just gives me the ick. These are tropes that have been historically used to justify oppression. So even in consensual scenarios, these things can blur the line between being erotic and being degrading. But really, I think it's all degrading and very not erotic at all. I don't even know how to respond to this lawsuit without grappling with that.
And people maybe don't necessarily realize, especially a public figure like him, that when they do something like that, it doesn't just personally affect him. Like it perpetuates on a broader scale this stereotype beyond just him and the implications that he's being sued. It has now put this story out and once again given another piece of evidence to those people that that's the role that Black men play.
Exactly. That actually goes to the other point that I was going to make about cultural memory and trauma, because for many communities, especially the Black community, the echoes of slavery, lynching, segregation, and systemic violence are still very present. So race play that mimics these histories may inadvertently reopen intergenerational trauma and feel like a betrayal of collective memory, which is exactly how I feel. I feel so furious at him for partaking in this because it also reintroduces this brute sort of caricature into the societal conversation again.
Those were the vibes. And that means now, dear listener, it's time for the deep dive.
This week, the deep dive is very serious because this is an intervention that I am throwing for Cheyenne. Because this is very serious, okay? And I've been telling you guys that she's a conservative, but I want to start out this deep dive with a question for the listeners. Okay, do you have any friends that you would describe as crunchy? I do, and her name is Cheyenne. You know the type. She always eats organic, loves yoga, worries a lot about microplastics and chemicals, and focuses on a return to a natural way of life.
That last one is maybe not me. But everything else, you got me.
I think you romanticize it. You just can't live it.
Yeah, no, there's no way.
You just don't have that dog in you.
I don't. But I know that.
Yes, but Cheyenne, you're not religious, but you do believe kind of in like a spirituality thing.
I do. Makes me crunchy.
Astrology.
Astrology, you are more into the astrology than I am.
Jesus Christ is my Lord and Savior. Okay.
Oh, calm down. You know what's so funny? This is such a digression. When we first started making the Pinterest to like plan what this set would look like, Rachel has almost all of her Pinterest boards public. And she had one, I'm guessing it was old, that was like church outfits. I was literally dying. I was like,
correct.
I was like, you know, that she was strolling into church in Virginia looking
Like a baddie. Correct. I never even told you about like the fact that I went to a racist church.
I just like assume if it's a church in Virginia.
We could have gone to black church. That's a whole other conversation. We did go to black church in the beginning, but then it turned out that the pastor was like stealing money. And my mom then went all the way to the other extreme and made us go to white church. The first time we were there, I was like, these people cannot sing. The music was terrible.
No rhythm. Claps are offbeat.
Do you want to hear something really problematic? My mom said when she dies, she wants like a black church choir because they're better.
Is that problematic or is that
just correct?
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I mean, that's income for their church. I'm sure they would take the gig.
Yeah. It felt a little bit like post-mortem appropriation, but whatever.
I don't know if it's appropriation if you just appreciate it. Like, that's an interesting take.
Yeah, that's a whole other separate conversation.
So anyway, back to our pseudo friends.
Our list of crunchy qualifications.
Yes. So this friend will likely believe that there's some type of force beyond sciences that reach the flows of life and affects our lives and the world around us. Now that I've described this, you probably at least know one person like this, at least. And I don't actually think this is Cheyenne because I know she's vaccinated. But now I'm going to ask you another question. Are that person's social or political beliefs totally cooked now? And by totally cooked, I mean ready to vote for RFK Jr.
Yep.
Remember the guy said really crazy with a K?
Are they ready to drink raw milk?
Or thinks that vaccines cause autism?
Yeah.
They might dabble in QAnon or some other right-wing conspiracy.
Also, I put this in here because I was basically just describing someone that I'm friends with on Instagram.
I know these people too.
Obviously not going to throw them out there, but like I used to work with this person and they were kind of like woo-woo. And in the span of like 5 years, they've transitioned to like full trad wife and like posting anti-Semitic on Instagram.
Oh God.
You know, there's a black pipeline for this too.
Is there?
Yeah, people.
Louis Farrakhan.
Dude, it's called Hebrew Israelites. It's the people who dress like purple Power Rangers and like yell with mics on the street. Do you have any idea what I'm talking about?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I have described this to you so many times.
You've never said purple Power Ranger.
Okay, no, but I have described
it's correct.
The Black Hebrew Israelite movement.
You're like, in fact, we talked about it last night.
So if all of these woo-woo ideas sound kind of familiar to you, it's because the last 5 or so years have been brutal for us all. But few people have been as up by COVID as the spiritual and wellness communities. Okay? This is why we have a measles outbreak right now.
Facts. For reasons that we're going to get into, the pandemic appears to have figuratively, hell, maybe literally, fried their brains.
Meaning Cheyenne's brain's fried.
My brain is not fried. I don't drink raw milk and I don't have a brain worm. But there are a lot of people who unfortunately did go down that pipeline.
Raw milk would literally kill you, I think.
Yeah, I know. I'm like totally lactose intolerant.
Wait.
So raw milk would actually I would be on my deathbed.
Was the brain worm thing real?
Yes. Yes.
We actually don't know.
No, it was part of a legal filing. The brain worm thing is real. The other thing that came out that was real was that he had mercury poisoning from eating so much canned tuna. Both of those things are like confirmed real.
Also, do you want to know why that's in a legal filing? It is because he wanted to basically give his ex-wife less money because he had a debilitating illness that prevented him from like generating income as a Kennedy.
Wait, but yeah, isn't he just a part of a trust?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know his financial situation, but that was the argument his lawyers used.
Can't pay alimony, too busy with brain worm. I want to be clear. I'm not talking about the COVID virus frying their brains. Instead, we're going to dive into how the misinformation ecosystem that exploded during the pandemic converted whole swaths of the wellness and spirituality communities into soldiers, righteous soldiers of the conspiracy right.
Or did they already exist and just, you know, come to the forefront of public awareness?
No, it's definitely different. These were people who, especially before the pandemic, likely would have identified more with the Democratic Party because they're thinking conservancy, taking care of the environment. These are things we care about.
Yeah, they've always been anti-vax, though.
Not always. Anti-vax is relatively new
It
in
is
modern
not.
history. It is.
No.
Actually. The anti-vax movement in the United States majorly was started by like Jenny McCarthy in like the 2000s.
Absolutely not, bro. There's stuff back from 1918 about the anti-vax movement.
Yeah, but it wasn't widely popular whatsoever. You can follow, there's charts on public opinion. It was not widely popular whatsoever until Jenny McCarthy went on Oprah and said it gave her son autism.
Yes, but just because it spread to more people doesn't mean that it didn't exist before. That's why I'm saying this is bringing it to the forefront of the public infosphere.
Yeah, but that implies that all these people like secretly held these beliefs beforehand, and now they're like coming forward and like telling their dirty secret. But like this movement that we're talking about from this period of the pandemic forward, people who previously believed different things were subject to so much new mis and disinformation in this social media echo chamber, and they weren't touching grass and seeing other people, that it completely warped their view of reality. People that like, I think a lot of people can like relate to this and speak to it personally too. Like people that you knew, friends, family members that used to be reasonable, used to be tethered to reality. It's like after the pandemic, it was completely different. And I know so many people who can attest to this, and I've seen it personally. So I think this is like a different type of phenomenon.
Okay, well, tell me why I'm wrong.
We're also going to talk about not only why these ideas got traction, but also why this particular community of people were so vulnerable to this phenomenon. This movement that melds the spirituality and wellness worlds with the conspiracy world is what we now understand as conspirituality. And just to make a note here, conspirituality has existed long before the pandemic, but I want to focus on COVID because I believe that this is what absolutely supercharged the movement.
I'm
You're
so
flexing.
glad that Alex literally said what I said.
No,
I did not
you
say
did
what you
not.
said. Do not
He
put words in my mouth.
Did.
He
He literally
literally
said it existed before the COVID pandemic.
Yes, which is, I said that too, but I said it blew up during COVID into a much larger degree.
I mean, that's fair, but
Yeah.
it still existed before.
Nobody,
No one said
no
that.
one said it didn't.
I still win.
Sure. Whatever you need.
Also, I'm going to do this part. I'm just leaning.
Do you see Alex asserting his dominance and taking over this alpha male role? Okay, King.
Anyway.
I thought you were going to say something about him being Asian, so it was race play. Subversive race play.
I don't know what Asian race play is. Do I just do like times tables?
Oh, I'm leaving.
I win the math Olympiad.
What do you want to say, Alex?
You get patted on the head by white women.
Oh my God.
Dude, that's like my dream.
Okay.
Anyway, I'm just want to note that I'm leaning heavily on a particular book. It's Conspirituality by Derek Barris, Matthew Remski, and Julian Walker for this deep dive. I wanted to add just a quick note about the book. One thing for sure is that, and I eventually want to have like a master list of just all the books that I use for these deep dives, because if you want more information, there's a lot of things that obviously can't fit into this show. And so if you want to take like an even deeper look at a deep dive, that would be like a great resource. In particular, because I know that we're going to have listeners that are on the spiritual side, and I don't want to like denigrate those people.
I do.
This book comes, I think, at this phenomenon from a really empathetic and
gentle,
like, I'm trying to think of the word, like the book is very earnest, and it takes people's both their spiritual beliefs and the consequences of that in this like modern misinformation ecosystem that we live in. But I just want to note that, like, because oftentimes when people do coverage from the view of a skeptic, it can come across as very like cruel and often like dismissive. I'm thinking of like the Sam Harris's and the Bill Maher's, and like Neil deGrasse Tyson is in this camp now. He's turning into a real prick. This is not that kind of book. And so if you're curious about this at all, I do highly recommend that.
Good note. So let's dive in. The earliest definition that we can find of conspirituality is in a 2011 paper, The Emergence of Conspirituality, by authors Charlotte Ward and David Voss.
A quick disclaimer about Charlotte Ward, too. I don't think it meaningfully affects the definition that they give for conspirituality, which I think is still very useful.
She racist?
No, she's like an average. Well, there's
Is she a eugenicist?
Possible anti-Semitism, but the
She's
no,
a
it's just that she is a herself avid conspiritualist.
She wrote a paper about it, and she is a conspiritualist.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Not to drag David Voss through the mud, he's like a real political scientist.
So, from the Jew Haters paper, conspirituality offers a broad politico-spiritual philosophy based on two core convictions. One, the traditional to conspiracy theory, and two, humanity is undergoing a paradigm shift in consciousness.
I can't even tell you how many people in my life have said that to me during my, like, that I've heard that exact term.
The paradigm shift?
There's a paradigm shift.
Dude, they throw that shit around like candy. Like,
yeah. And you don't think about it like as being part of this universe. You just think it's something people say. But yeah, that makes sense.
Proponents believe that the best strategy for dealing with the threat of a totalitarian new world order is to act in accordance with an awakened new paradigm worldview.
That sounds like a super great way to get people to join your cult.
Also, I feel like if anyone has done drugs, they've experienced spirituality. Like if you've done a psychedelic drug, you have experienced spirituality.
I don't know if that's universal.
Bruh.
I think it's common, but I don't think it's universal.
It is unless you had a bad trip.
I don't think so. I know a lot of people.
Alex, can you weigh in on this, please?
No, I'm not weighing in on this.
I know a lot of people who have done psychedelics that are still atheists.
Yeah, but it has nothing to do with that. I'm talking about the trip itself being spiritual.
Yeah, they don't believe that spiritual things exist.
Yeah, I know, but it's not about that. It's about a feeling.
I understand.
Whatever.
I love that you think that just because something you have experienced.
I didn't say it was me. I do not do drugs.
Everyone.
I do not do drugs. Don't do drugs. Stay in school. Crack is whack.
Okay, Whitney Houston.
Now, if you're not as familiar with the modern conspiracy movement and new age spirituality as I am, one, you should consider yourself lucky because that means you probably have a life. How are we all like really deep into conspiracy new age bullshit?
We all are from like different angles too. It's really funny. I grew up in a lane that was super prone to people accidentally like spinning off that way. So I've like watched it really critically and watched how the people who are like really vulnerable to this stuff can fling off but some of them ended up in cults, that's for sure.
I just like to watch a lot of documentaries about cults. I have a fascination with them.
Did you know that where I grew up in Northern California, like literally 20 minutes down the road was the original Jonestown, and then they had to move it because like they were getting pressure from the feds.
The feds were narrowing in on them.
In Ukiah. It was like right by where I grew up.
Maybe one day we'll talk about the connection between cults and pedophilia because that is always an emerging topic.
I don't even think that that's like crazy. Like anybody that's going to use that kind of charismatic, manipulative, coercive control is going to be an abuser. So it's either going to be like women or children. It's like both. Also men. Who knows? But that's like guaranteed. I knew it. Literally, you know, when I watched Tiger King for the first time and they showed Doc Antle's face, I was like, that guy for sure assaults people. I could tell. I was like, this is a cult and people are getting assaulted. And it turns out that was correct.
You didn't also think that, like, whatever his name is, the Tiger King was also...
Oh, he was for sure. It took me a little bit longer to see it because there was so much going on.
Yeah, with the meth.
And the EMT jacket and the multiple staff members missing limbs. There's a lot going on at Wynnewood Exotic Park or whatever the hell it was called.
He also low-key was running a cult. It was just way less well-run than Doc Antle's cult.
It was like a redneck cult. It was not like a bougie...
No, it was just a gay cult.
But they were not gay. You cannot tell me that either of those guys were gay.
Who?
His husbands.
Yeah, I know. He ran a gay cult for straight men.
Yeah.
It was...
Fueled by meth.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's just a meth cult.
Well, no, because the meth was used to facilitate the gay sex. The meth was weaponized to facilitate the gayness.
Weaponized meth.
Correct. Anyway.
You want to pet a tiger and have some meth? We've been throwing around a whole lot of words, and let's get this train back on the tracks and do some definitions. This is your favorite thing, so give us like a quick and dirty rundown here of the language.
Okay, so I'm going to explain what New Age, paradigm shift, and New World Order mean and the social context in which they exist.
New World Orders. So 100%
the lizard
culty.
people, bruh.
There's no universe that anyone is saying New World Order if they're not in a cult.
Okay, so the New Age could be an episode by itself because it encompasses an extremely broad array of beliefs, and there's still quite a bit of scholarly disagreement over a clean definition, but shout out to Alex for trying his best. New Ageism, which literally sounds kind of ageist, encompasses a wide range of spiritual and health practices that became popular in the West. Being that white people colonize everything, they take these ideas from various Eastern and indigenous American religious practices. Think Buddhism, Hinduism, Jainism, etc. So today's New Age spiritual practices still exist in some forms, and they also pervade much of the contemporary wellness movement. But the most important thing to recognize for our purposes of this episode is that the uniting belief for most New Agers is oneness. The mind, the body, the spirit, and your environment are all connected through energy or divine. It pervades all things, but it is not yet identifiable by science. That was my great New Age voice. Did you guys like it?
Yeah, that was pretty good. It felt like those weird New Age, like YouTube meditations.
Felt like I was in a sound healing class.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of like the meditations though. Like they're very relaxing.
They can be if they don't give me.
Yeah, for
Sometimes
sure.
it's like some weird greasy dude, and he's like, "What have you been thinking about?" And I'm like, "Okay."
I don't know what's going on with your algorithm. Okay, so because the entirety of the universe is connected and everything that happens has an identifiable cause, these folks believe that there's no accidents and that everything is synchronized. So New Agers tend to believe that ancient people were more in tune with this energy, but that modern life has severed our connection to it, much to our detriment.
This is so funny because, like, you're right. It's literally like 2 degrees away from me.
Touch grass.
Like, I could totally. Yeah, but my thing is, like, there's some of this that's, like, verifiable through both science and anthropology. Like, we are inherently less connected to the way that we are biologically, like, meant to live as individual human beings and also as a society.
Yeah, we should definitely use our feet in the grass barefoot to charge ourselves.
Okay, not like that. I'm not like we're supposed to live in close-knit communities that are interconnected and not just in our tiny little nuclear homes. And I think that there are just so many things where that gets bastardized into this idea that, like, it's not just that the quality of our relationships in society is degraded due to capitalism. It's actually that, like, there's some spiritual force that we're disconnected from, and it's like our cell phones and the Bluetooth are blocking the energy, and it becomes a whole other thing.
Well, I call Cheyenne every day, so our energy is not blocked.
Yeah, our energy is flowing, actually. Thanks, Apple.
Also, buddy, I am gonna get there.
Okay, sorry. I know we always cut in front of Alex's flow that he gives in these deep dives.
So sorry. Okay, so let's get to the next definition, the paradigm shift. A paradigm shift is a reevaluation of the way that we look at something. So in the context of New Age spiritual beliefs, it refers to a rejection of the values that modernity takes for granted, such as liberal capitalism, organized religion, and the academic and medical establishments. So they're more in favor of like a holistic spiritual approach. My dad, there's this medicine called Sambucol, and it tasted so good.
I thought you were trying to say Sambuca, like the
No.
liquor.
And my dad was like, this is sugar water. It doesn't do And my mom was so offended, but literally, I also think it's sugar water.
What I think is funny too is like they reject all of these modern ideas for the most part, and like it to me, like this part of the rabbit hole breaks for me just being like pretty radically anti-capitalist, and I think it breaks for them as being like just conspiratorially distrustful of like real science.
I wonder how often these people bathe.
I don't know. I feel like it varies. There's definitely plenty of conspiracies about like in the water, and I don't know. They're anti-fluoride, so maybe they don't.
These got cavities for days.
Oh, for sure.
Okay, so you might have heard the terminology of paradigm shift before. Examples include an awakening, opening your third eye, which you can also, again, do through drugs. Like, y'all, you don't need to join a cult. Just take some psychedelics and have a trip guide so that you don't, do some harm. The first time you do the psychedelics, you need a trip guide. I wouldn't say always, or if you just try
Rachel,
a different type of psychedelic for the first time.
Evidence to throw us in a Salvadoran gulag. That's what you're doing right now. Like, reel it in.
What do you mean?
What do you mean?
Marijuana is legal.
That's not a psychedelic.
Yes, it is, Alex.
Not a psychedelic, but
marijuana is a psychedelic.
It's literally not.
It's classified as a psychedelic drug.
By what? The federal government?
Maybe.
Yeah, it doesn't count.
Still counts.
Keep going.
Yeah, it's also Schedule 1 under the DEA.
Yeah.
Alex, it's your turn.
What?
Oh, yeah. It literally is. It says little disclaimer from Alex here.
Oh, yeah. I wrote it in for myself and I forgot. So, sorry, I'm jumping in a lot this episode.
Don't apologize. Assert that masculine energy.
That goddamn alpha male energy.
Yes, Asian King. Yes.
So right now, a lot of you are probably pretty confused because a lot of this sounds like a good thing.
The drugs.
Okay. And deep dives are usually where we take the time to on something. And don't worry, we're getting there. But you're not wrong to think that. There's a lot of things that New Age spirituality got right ish. For example, there's a growing wealth of scientific evidence that mental and physical health are bound in various ways. There's also an irrefutable argument that human health is inseparable from environmental health. New Agers do identify something that feels wrong with society, and their instincts pointed them, I think, in the right direction. But I think what we're going to end up getting into later is that what this kind of demonstrates is the limitations of this kind of vibes-based analysis, that like if you identify problems but don't think of them deeply in an evidence-based sort of way, it can really lead you to a lot of the wrong solutions, which I think is where a lot of this ends up, unfortunately.
I think that also really clearly defines like exactly where I diverge from these people, because like I agree with a lot of like I am probably borderline a conspiritual person about like modern medicine, but that's because I have like read such a plethora of research about the way that modern medicine does not fundamentally understand the female body like whatsoever, and that the treatments that they offer have not been studied on women, and that there is very, very little we actually do know. And so I'm inherently very skeptical, but that doesn't mean that like I'm going to get an infection and not take an antibiotic. Like,
thank God.
You can put onions on your feet?
No, I'm not putting onions on my feet.
I will say that Vicks Vapor Rub does help cure everything. Okay, like you just got to slap that on. It makes a difference. There's actually one more definition, and then we can go back to the actual episode.
Okay.
So the New World Order, and not the one from professional wrestling. Pause.
Wait,
what?
You guys don't know about the NWO? Dude, this is actually such an old thing that like no one listening to this podcast is gonna know what I'm talking about.
It's giving boy interjection.
Look,
do your thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hulk Hogan was in the NWO. I can't remember who else.
Hulk Hogan.
He's a racist.
Yeah, he is a racist.
Is he? I knew a lot about Hulk Hogan. I didn't know that. I'm not surprised.
Old reference. No one's gonna get it, but I had to put it in there because whenever I hear New World Order, I think of professional wrestling.
All right. Well, for like the one listener that wanted that shout out, you got it.
Yeah, for like the 35-year-old wrestling fan that watches this podcast, that was for you.
Okay, well,
the one that we're talking about.
New World Order conspiracies revolve around the idea that there's a shadowy cabal of global elites that are manipulating events to institute a totalitarian one world government, the Illuminati, trying to take over the world.
So now that we've done all of that definition work and we have context, what is conspirituality?
Conspirituality is the idea that a group of evil elites are trying to take over the world, and that in order to prevent this, people need to wake up to the truth. This is where we can start to examine the heart of the link between spirituality and wellness, conspiracy theories, and the alt-right.
So let's get in the weeds here. Political scientist Michael Barkin has identified 3 features of conspiratorial thinking. First, nothing happens by accident. Second, nothing is as it seems. And third, everything is connected. So if you recall our discussion of New Age spirituality a little bit earlier, you may find that these features sound pretty familiar. New Age concepts like synchronicity and oneness resemble the same through lines that populate the New World Order conspiracy theories. In the words of Beres et al., the difference between spirituality and conspiracy is not of character, but of degree. See, that's like one of the things that I would take a little bit of issue with, because that is something that could very easily be taken by like people who have any kind of spiritual belief as like openly hostile to that whole idea. But I can also understand from a purely academic perspective, like how you could draw that line. Looking at New Age spirituality through this lens makes it easier to understand how these individuals were susceptible to conspiratorial thinking. They utilize identical analytical frameworks. However, the similarities extend beyond the way that New Agers just view the world. It also applies to how they perceive this knowledge. Scholars of conspiracy theorists often refer to the concept of this, quote, secret knowledge. This is the idea that the possessor of that knowledge is not supposed to know it, usually because society has stigmatized or forbid it.
Wait, so professors of conspiracy, I should have majored in that.
Yeah, you would have been great. Let's consider how this idea of secret knowledge relates to the spiritualist movement. Their adherents often believe that they are learning ancient truths that have either been lost or abandoned by modern society. So, secret knowledge. This can become a powerful tool for a few reasons.
I just got some secret knowledge.
The first reason that this could be a powerful tool is that people like knowing a secret. The modern world often robs people of any sense of individual identity or of purpose. And believing that you know something important that could be either of service to other people or just simply that other people don't know can make you feel special. The second is that it builds a sense of community. Now, think about that in the context of a whole universe of people feeling very disconnected from community during the pandemic. Not everyone possesses the knowledge that you do, but a select few do, which creates an insular sort of bond between you. This creation of a sense of community also relates to that former point. And all of these people in this community are keeping each other company on Reddit or 4chan or wherever they're doing their little conspiracy.
It's giving QAnon.
Yeah, well, it tells you how they got there. Lastly, secret knowledge is inherently impervious to criticism because any external attacks only feed your belief that you know something society doesn't want you to know. Think about the way that QAnon folks reacted when there was pushback against them using ivermectin to fight off COVID. This was something that they insisted was secret knowledge, and it was anybody that was trying to push the vaccine wanted you to get microchipped by Bill Gates. The conspiracy movement preyed on ideological frameworks that spiritualists were already accustomed to. Then the pandemic hit. This time of vastly increased stress and uncertainty created an environment in which many were looking for comfort and looking for clear answers. Conspiracy theories offered exactly that, and for the spiritual and wellness communities that were already steeped in conspiracy-adjacent framings, this jump was a very easy one to make.
I'm annoyed that the pandemic is being used as a way to justify the fact that these people never had any difficulty in their life before. And the second it pops up, they go to cuckoo crackland.
I think nobody's saying that. I think what we're talking about is we're talking about the pandemic because that was the moment where these people who were already vulnerable for a number of socioeconomic, psychological, and cultural reasons were able to be preyed upon because of the loneliness and fear and the insecurity economically and physically.
I disagree because those same motherfuckers were outside because they didn't believe in COVID, okay? The South did not shut down, and that's where a large percentage of these conspirituality people are.
Well, it's actually kind of crazy because
a lot of them are in California.
A lot of them are right here.
Oh, and Sedona, Arizona.
Yeah, like a big number of them. And it's also like people who...
Oh, hi, baby.
Yeah, and it's a huge number of people that like have wealth and privilege too.
Right, which goes back to my first issue that this is just white people who never experienced any type of discomfort, and then they automatically jump to woo-woo.
Yeah, but it's not just white people, because there's a lot of stats on how communities that had pre-existing distrust of institutions because of historical trauma, like Black communities and Hispanic communities, were really susceptible to this because they already had long-standing distrust of
Yes,
doctors.
but there are no Black people in Ojai.
No, but there are Black people who are part of this conspirituality movement, like a significant number.
I need to see the data on that. There's not a significant number of Black people anywhere except jail.
Rachel.
Bruh, what?
It is
Facts.
significant. It's worth noting that while there are a lot of people who have helped perpetuate these ideas that are people who have a lot of status and privilege, the predation, is that predation?
Yeah, predation.
Their theories are very predatory of people who are systemically oppressed because they're not getting either the education, the resources, or the trustworthy types of care from these institutions. So that's where I start to have empathy, is like, this is obviously doing a lot of harm. And when you use that as a weapon to be to other people by like voting for someone like RFK or Trump, and you disregard the very real immediate harm that that's going to do to vulnerable communities because you want fluoride out of the water, like, that's a problem. And I really struggle with that. But at the same time, like, I understand how people got there. I had this appointment, and I won't say with who, but like with a new person. And we were just talking, and I learned a lot about her over the course of a few hours. Her story was not dissimilar from mine. She had a lot of medical issues that doctors for years could not figure out.
So does every woman.
Yeah. She had to try to find something to get herself like out of pain and get some relief. And some of that was like looking for a naturopathic doctor that would look at other options. And that naturopathic doctor like gave her some stuff that really worked and had her do like an elimination diet, which was something her doctor had never talked to her about before. And it started to help. And then that naturopathic doctor started talking to her about like insane conspirituality because she was down the rabbit hole about, well, you should. And it happened to me, actually. Now that I'm talking about it, I had to leave a doctor that I was seeing like this year because they tried to tell me that I should do nicotine patches because that's what Tucker Carlson does.
Bruh, and as I told y'all before, this is an intervention that I staged for Cheyenne. And this is also get back for that golf player bro bullshit, okay? You set me up, and now I'm getting my get back.
It's not a get back because I don't need an intervention because I
You
left
do.
the doctor's office myself.
Barely.
But I am absolutely horrifically terrified of microplastics. I think that's going to be like the lead of our time. I also, again,
I think lead is the lead of our time because we still haven't gotten lead out of the water.
Yeah, also true. Facts. But yeah, I don't know. I definitely can be prone to distrust, but you're not going to see me like going to a QAnon rally or storming the Capitol because of it.
I don't know if the wellness bros stormed the Capitol.
A lot of those people.
I mean, the QAnon shaman, a very noteworthy J6er, was like, I mean, he is a self-proclaimed practicer of shamanistic practices. That one, he's the one that's vegan too, right? Or vegetarian or something.
And this is why we should stop colonialism. Okay, do you see how harmful this is? It is just spread everywhere.
You have to make the connection for why colonialism has anything to do with this for the listener, because that was a huge ideological jump.
No, because they literally talked about how they just took Eastern practices and indigenous practices and used it.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Bro, that really does piss me off too, because like I revere like the actual root practices of Buddhism and think that they're really important and that there's a lot that can be gleaned from that that's really helpful. And these ideas totally bastardize that, and it completely disconnects it from like the East Asian roots. And the idea that taking that and saying like we're all connected, so obviously that means that somebody has their hand in this and there's things that are happening, there's a reason for everything, and that reason is that someone's f***ing everything up, is like so crazily disconnected.
It's actually facts. White Jesus is everything up, because you see that. Do you see how the evangelical Christians have taken what could have been a beautiful spiritual practice of oppressed peoples and turned it into white people bullshit? Stop white Jesus 2025. That's what we should take from this.
that's what we should take from this.
Also, Cheyenne, I totally agree with like everything you just said, but I will also point out that a lot of contemporary yoga practice in the US is like a very intentional like soft power militancy by the BJP. Like it is a
Who's BJP? Blowjob penis.
No, India's Hindu nationalist party that currently dominates their politics.
See, guys, I don't know about world politics. Embarrassing.
They've exported yoga the same way that the US like exports American films and like television
as like a cultural
as a
soft
way
power
to like
And by American films, he means porn.
No, he means like Marvel movies.
It was a joke.
Yeah, that also really does give me the ick.
But that's like a whole nother thing.
Yeah, that's a whole other episode about why we should maybe be concerned about like going to Core Power and getting taught yoga by a white woman named Janine.
See, this is why I don't go to Core Power. Ding.
Also, if you've ever done like real yoga, it's crazy how much different of an experience it is. It's humbling, it's boring, it's like mentally, physically challenging and not like the way that you would imagine. And it makes sense why like popular culture and like Western culture had to like deeply bastardize that and change it to popularize it and make it something that they could capitalize.
There's different practices of yoga.
Oh yeah. Like a bazillion. No, there's a bazillion, but I mean like something that hasn't been like deeply reinterpreted by like a modern attempt to make it profitable.
Well, we dove into that deep dive. So, Cheyenne, it's time to wrap this episode up. What's been living in your head rent-free this week?
What's been living in my head rent-free this week is still a developing story. And I really shouldn't even say this week. I should just say today, because at the time of filming, this is like brand new. But the Trump administration and specifically the FBI has now arrested 2 judges. And this is a whole new attack on the judiciary system. This has taken his attack on democracy and the Constitution to a whole new level. Specifically, a judge in Wisconsin was arrested after they claim she helped a undocumented immigrant evade apprehension by ICE. The real details of the situation seem, and again, it's still developing, so these may change. But as of right now, what we know is that he was in the courthouse following the legal requirements of his basically process toward either a green card or citizenship. And after a hearing in her courtroom, because I believe there were ICE agents in the hall, they were instructed, or she let them know that there was a different door that they could go out of. That was literally it. That was all this woman did, which, by the way, is not illegal in any way, shape, or form. And Kash Patel, who is the current FBI director and also a professional conspiracy crazy person, and all you need to know that is to look at a photo of his face and his eyes. He put out on Twitter a long post explaining that the FBI arrested her and that the wild judiciary branch was going to be, reined in now, and that this was like the beginning of a new order, and any judges that think that they can be like against ICE should watch out. He then immediately took that post off of X. The administration has not answered why. I'm assuming it's because everyone freaked out immediately, and internal comms looked at that and said, hey, did you know you're declaring war on the Constitution? Maybe let's not do that. And if you're thinking, surely like this is a one-off, no, they arrested a different judge yesterday, and they're claiming that he was aiding and abetting some immigrant that they say is a member of the gang Tren de Aragua, which we know how often they are correct about asserting that someone's in a gang and how they use that to basically wrongfully deport anyone they want to. And they're claiming that he was hiding this person in his house, so he and his wife were both arrested. This is dark and scary, and they are not even doing it in secret. Attorney General Pam Bondi went live on Fox and said the following: "What has happened to our judiciary is beyond me. They are deranged. We are sending a very strong message today. We will come after you, and we will prosecute you. We will find you." That's what the administration is saying to the judges of our judiciary system. We will come after you. We will find you. That's crazy. I literally don't even know what to say. This is, again, like we've talked about this. We both went to law school. we were trained to have a really like high reverence toward this legal system, which has a separation of powers between the executive branch, the judiciary, and Congress. And we're watching that degrade in what feels like, you know, should be happening over the course of like, I don't know, 100 or 200 years. It's happening like all right now, 100 miles per hour. It's accelerated. It's deeply disturbing to me how little pushback there is. I'm really concerned about these ongoing attacks on the legal system. You know, we've seen through executive order that he's targeted law firms that take actions that the administration doesn't like. And many of these law firms have caved. And now he's going after judges. I wouldn't be surprised if sometime in the next 2 weeks, Judge Boasberg is behind bars for some bullshit that they make up because they don't like him. This is very scary. It is impeachable, period. Like, he should be impeached and removed from office. He should be run out of the White House. It is unbelievable. And I can't.
Well, Cheyenne, that was depressing as hell. My rent-free is a little bit more uplifting, though. I was speaking with an elder in the community, and she said something that really stuck with me. She said, you're either running to freedom or you're running scared. And I've always been someone that was passionate about what I'm doing. And there's a clear line right now between right and wrong. So we have a choice in everything that's happening. We can run toward freedom or we can run scared. And we've seen lots of large corporations run scared, but they can pull up to my crib. You're going to around and find out.
The large corporations can pull up to your crib?
No ice.
Oh.
Actually, if the large corporations could pull up to our crib and sponsor the show, that would be kind of nice.
Yeah. I'd like
Stay hope.
If there's a large corporation we could get, who would we want? I would want like Patagonia. I would wear your stuff and you guys are like ethical.
I want Costco.
Yes, Costco. Can you imagine? What would that ad even be? Do you need a load of stuff?
You a lot.
Do you
hate going to the grocery store every freaking week? Why not buy in bulk? That's what I do.
Do you want to have so much stuff that you have to store it in random places and cover every surface in your house, but you'll do it because you want to save a little bit of money by buying in bulk, and also you believe in DEI? Costco, and get a chicken bake.
Amen.
60 grams of protein in a chicken bake.
Oh my god. Not us doing literally a free ad for Costco right now. Anyway, sponsor us. Also Patagonia, please sponsor me. Also Ben & Jerry's. Oh no, you fired your woke CEO, so I don't care for you. Never mind, Ben & Jerry's.
Yeah, I don't know.
I literally can't think of any other good companies. Modern Bread and Bagel. We got it again today. Please sponsor our show.
Bruh. So what I want to leave you with this week, baddies, is the question of whether or not you're running scared or running toward freedom and what that looks like for you.
And I think you have to really think about that. Like, just whatever your gut reaction is might not be right. Sometimes we think that we're doing something because we really want it and we're really passionate about it, but maybe the reason that you want it and you feel passionate about it is because you are scared. And I can relate to that.
I was just about to ask if you were confessing something.
Yeah, I'm like, don't at me back there. I could feel Alex looking at me. That's why I had to do that. But yeah, so think about it deeply, because the answer, I was about to be like clickbait, the answer might shock you.
Find out on tomorrow's episode of Dragon Ball Z.
Well, this has been a week, baddies. So we'll see you next time.
Stay bad. We'll miss you. Bye.